In today's episode, I talk with Coach Ryan of the Bob Jones University Men's Program. If you like our interviews, I would truly appreciate it if you could subscribe to our YouTube channel, or if you're more of a podcast person, subscribe and leave a review on any of your favorite platforms, whether that's Apple, Google, Spotify, or more. And don't forget, follow us on all the different social media channels at discover_CS. Thanks. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Discover College Soccer. Today, I'm lucky enough to be joined by Coach Ryan McCarty from Bob Jones University. How are you, Coach?
Doing well, doing well.
Awesome. Well, you guys are in Greenville, South Carolina, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yes, we are.
Awesome. And you are the unique thing that I can't remember if I've interviewed any schools like this or not, but you guys are dual affiliated, both NCAA Division III as well as NCCAA with the Christian colleges. And if I'm not mistaken, you guys got a little bit of a national tournament here coming up, right?
Yes, sir. We
Awesome.
leave Sunday going down to Florida.
All right. Well, you timed it well because they just got blasted here yesterday. Me too,
Yeah.
because I'm down in Bradenton, so I'm not too
Oh, wow,
far
yeah.
from where you're going to be. But hopefully the fields will be in good shape for you.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, we're getting the tail end of it right now in Greenville, so
Yeah, I bet.
should be gone by then.
Yep. Well, good. Well, hey, let's talk about recruiting a little bit, because you know it's an interesting, probably dynamic for you guys being dual affiliated, but you're in the NCCAA Division II because you don't offer athletic scholarships, and obviously you don't your Division III because they don't offer athletic scholarships. But you know, talk to me a little bit about your recruiting process. What you know, when do you usually start talking to players to try to get them in?
Yeah, it depends. A lot of these questions are probably going to be depends, but really we like to identify guys by their junior year, if possible by their sophomore, but usually about their junior year, and then be talking to them, kind of have those decisions finalized by senior year. It's not uncommon though to have guys reach out that we've missed, and so who are seniors, and they reach out, and so really between junior and senior years when we start contact with a lot of guys, but ideally that junior year.
Okay. And what are some of the kind of top tournaments, places you go that you're really looking to find players and really see what's out there?
Yeah, tournaments are tricky because you really want to know who you're looking for before you get there. It's kind of hard to be watching all these games and taking notes on all these different players. So for what we've experienced, this is only my second year as assistant, so I'm still somewhat new in it. But what we found is a lot of online, finding guys online, and then being able to see them in person at different tournaments. So different ECNL tournaments, different MLS Next tournament type showcases. This past summer, actually had some good success at the Future 500 ID camps, and then the exact camps, worked a couple of those. But it's really, it can be hit or miss. You know, there's some camps we went to and there really wasn't anybody there. There's other camps we went to and found a few guys.
Do you guys do any of your own camps, or is it all kind of third party or other school stuff that you guys are working?
Yeah. So we hit a lot of other, third party camps, but we hold our own. We actually have an ID camp coming up January 21st of 23. So we have a winter ID camp, a summer ID camp, and then we also have a week-long summer camp for guys who might want to get a fuller, experience, especially kind of tweaking that program or tweaking that camp so where it's more of a preseason getting into club, or for North Carolina schools, it's their high school season. But if we find a guy online who we think he looks, he's got the video for it. I always say video can be deceptive. It's hard to tell a good player from video. You can usually tell a bad player. But if we see someone who we think this guy could be a good candidate for our program, then we invite him to our D camps and get a better look at him there.
Well, don't forget to put those ID camps on discovercollegesoccer.com's camp listings. But when you're looking for players, or whether that's through the video that you're seeing or at tournaments or camps or whatever, what is the hierarchy of things you're looking at, whether that's on the field stuff or off the field stuff?
Yeah, I like that hierarchy. I mean, somebody's got to be good enough. They can be the nicest guy in the world. They could be the smartest guy in the world, but if they can't kick a soccer ball, they're not good on the field, then unfortunately we're not able to give them much more than a first look. So the technical's got to be there. I'd say the mental side of it has to be there. But really what's going to help get you over the line is a combination of the technical, the tactical, the mental, all those things that make you a good player. But then off the field, are they a good student? We've had guys who come in, they're great players, but they're either ineligible off the bat or they become ineligible because they don't do the work in the classroom. So that's something more and more we're honing in on. Can they do the work and do well on the field, but stay up off the field, keep their grades up off the field? And then I think probably the final part of that is just their character. We're a Christian university, so we look to bring in Christians, believers who want to grow in their faith while growing in their education, growing in their athletic abilities. So are they going to be a good fit for the school, for the program? Are they going to fit with the guys? So a lot of those kind of intangible things that you can't really measure on a stat sheet or even by watching somebody on the field, it's getting to know them off the field, which is why those in-person camps are so important.
For sure, for sure. Well, on the roster side of things, I look, you guys have a couple international players. So how does international recruiting fit in? And do you guys get a lot of transfers, or do transfers fit in at all?
Yeah. So starting with international, we have a number of guys who have a lot of our internationals are kind of transplanted to the United States. So they're not straight from foreign countries, but have come from sometimes refugee situations, sometimes just a parent's job, or a situation has changed and they're here. So there's a lot of opportunities. Like you said, we don't have athletic scholarships, but there's different opportunities for international students through other scholarships. And obviously those are for any student, not just athletes, but internationally, that's kind of a lot of international students will get different kind of financial aid through those other scholarships outside of athletics. And that's where, we get a lot of those from.
Okay. Well, you mentioned financial aid, and it's always the number one question, or at least usually on a parent's mind. So I'm not holding you to any hard numbers here, but can you just give me a broad strokes overview of what does the overall tuition and financial aid packages look like in terms of whether that's academic money or other scholarships, or kind of what all that looks like?
Yeah. I'm not a salesman, and they say the number one thing in sales is don't say the price right up front. But I figure in my mindset is you kind of get the elephant, address the elephant in the room, and then you kind of help you see the elephants, and really not that big and bad and scary as it is. So this past year, I believe tuition was, once again, rough numbers, it was right around 21,000. Room and board was about 11,000, which you look at a lot of D3 schools, even some of the D2s and D1s in the area, it's actually very affordable. But still, no one wants to just pay, 31K just because. And so thankfully about 95% of our students receive financial aid. And that's, once again, not just limited to athletes, it's across the board. And a lot of D3, I think statistically D3 institutions give more financial aid than D1s and D2s. And so with that, you have the first line of academic aid, which is financial. So a student coming in, let's say they had their top academic scores, their GPA, how they ranked in their classes, the kind of three metrics, they could get up to $10,000 off just purely based on academics. And that number goes down as the scores go down, but it could be 6,500, 4,500, and there's some flexibility in there depending on the grades. Then you have need-based. So if you have a student who, based on either their situation or the family situation, there can be upwards to $6,000 to $8,000 that are offered just on need-based. And then there's other scholarships outside of that, based on your major, based on if your parents, it's a Christian university, so if your parents are in ministry, there's other scholarships that can be added on to that. And so it becomes very very affordable compared to the initial maybe shock at the price tag. I believe last I checked, the average aid a student got was, or the average a student was paying was around $14,000. And obviously there's some lower, there's some higher, the average, but that's kind of the nuts and bolts, general overview of what our financial packaging would look like.
Yeah, no, that's great. Well, let's talk a little bit more about the school, because there's probably folks out there who haven't heard of Bob Jones University in Greenville, South Carolina. It was funny. I was just actually talking about Greenville, South Carolina to somebody just the other day, and I did not know that that's where Bob Jones University was located. So I'm learning something here as well. So kind of besides what I can find by clicking around the website, give me some of the awesome things about the school that folks may not know.
So a lot of it is on the website. So I'm trying to,
Well, that just means you got a good website, but give me the
Yeah.
highlights, I guess.
So I've already said, it's a Christian university. It's was founded in 1927, so it's coming up on 100 years. We've been in Greenville since the mid 40s. I think 1946 was our first year in Greenville. We're about 2,500 students, give or take, depending on the year. That's trending upwards, but that's the number right now. We're a liberal arts school, which for some who don't know what that is, it's you basically have your core classes that you have to take, trying to make you or help you become well-rounded in whatever field you're going into. So you have your amount of maths and English and sciences that you need to take. So if I could boil it down, it's from the initial founding back in 1927, a Christian education, educating the whole person, academically, culturally, as for us as athletes, athletically, the physical aspect of it, spiritually, and kind of wrapping all that into one package to give you the best education possible. And so they kind of going back to that question, what's not on the website? I think the biggest thing, as I was trying to answer that question, there's a lot of our, the academic achievements that are listed online. It's a very tough school academically. There've been a lot of great things. Our test scores, our passing rates, success rates that have come out. There's a lot of experiences. Greenville, is a great location for us. It's one of the top 10 downtowns. At least it has been. I don't think I've seen the rankings this year, but in the United States, it's one of the top 10 downtowns. But the thing that you can't put on a website, I think, is the experience, and just your teachers care about you. Other students care about you, even though they might not, know you. It's just it's a really unique environment, and there's a small student to teacher ratio of about 12 to 1, and you get a lot of that individual investment from the teachers. So I'm not a salesman, but as every salesman say, you have to come and experience for yourself, on a visit or on a tour. But I'd say that's probably the best part of the university, is just the people, and along with all the other great things.
No, that's fantastic. Well, you mentioned academics. So being a challenging academic environment, how do student athletes really balance those commitments between academics and athletics, and what support systems does the school have in place to help?
Yeah. Not going to cut corners. It's tough. It's tough being a college athlete wherever you go. I think particularly hard at schools that value the education a lot. Students will come and say, or prospective student athletes will come and say, how am I going to balance it all? And I think the best way I've viewed it is, it doesn't cause any problems. Like, it doesn't, your athletics and your education aren't going to create problems, but they're going to reveal maybe bad study habits or bad time management. So to help with that, every freshman, at least for our program, every freshman coming in has to meet with an academic coach. That's different than a tutor. We have tutors available, but an academic coach is someone who'll plan out, here's what your schedule looks like. Hey, here's how much time that you probably need to allot for this class. This class that all the freshmen take causes problems about this time of the semester, so you want to be working ahead. So there's that support system that all our freshmen and incoming transfers have to meet with on a weekly basis until they're settled. And then there's others as well. There's a writing center any student can go to that we push a lot of our athletes to, especially because you're having to balance writing papers as well as you're hitting the road and you're traveling. So communication with teachers is it really forces you to learn how to communicate with teachers ahead of time and how to work out schedules. So it is a tough balancing act, but the teachers are great about working with students. to help them either get stuff done ahead of time or, to give them the tools they need to, study on the road.
Okay. Well, can you talk about being on the road? Obviously, you guys are heading to nationals here very shortly, but minus a week on the road in Florida, can you walk me through kind of what a typical week looked like during your regular season in terms of wins, classes, meals, practices, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah. So classes can be really any time between 8 to 5. Um, so, classes will run, I guess, anywhere from 8 to 11, I should say. We have chapel a couple days a week. So that starts at 11. So there's no classes during that time. And the classes will start in, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4 o'clock will be the latest that a class will start. Our practices run from 3:30 to 5. So most all our guys are able to get all their classes in. There's occasionally a guy who might have to miss maybe part of a session or a session here or there, but that's pretty rare. So trying to think through a typical, a guy will have a 9 o'clock, a 10 o'clock class, head to chapel, head to lunch, have a 1 o'clock, a 2 o'clock. That would be a really busy day, actually. They might just have a 1 o'clock. They'll be done after 2. And then at 3:30, we start training. We keep it tight and short, using all the time of the 90 minutes. We found that you don't really need to go, extra, at least not every day. We used to do 2-hour practices, and we have a professional club in the area, the Greenville Triumph, and we have a good relationship with them, and their sessions rarely go longer than 70 or 80 minutes. So we kind of took a page out of their book. And so that's why our trainings tend to run that way. Once we get into the season, probably about 2 games a week is normal. So Monday, we'd have kind of the schedule I gave, training. Tuesday, say it's a home game. So we have your same schedule. And then we have a game at 7 o'clock or 6 o'clock that evening. Wednesday, Thursday, same schedule as Monday. And then either a Friday game, which would be in the evening, or we did a lot of our away trips on Saturdays this year. So that kept us from having to travel too much. We still end up traveling, I think, more than we normally would during the week, but long and short of it, that's a typical week. And 2 games, training on the days that we don't have games, and then classes outside of that.
Okay. Well, let's talk a little bit more about the team, the soccer side. Is there a roster size you guys try to hit? Do you have like a reserve side, developmental squad as well?
Yeah, so we don't have a reserve or JV developmental. We really like, one of Coach Greg, the head coach, his focus is that we're family as a team. So it's everyone together. We talked about the idea of having a JV, a VR, whatever you want to call it. And he just really wasn't a big fan of the idea, keeping a smaller squad to keep everyone together. So that's, when you come to experience, I think that's something, at least when we talk to recruits, that they've noticed and mentioned things about how close the guys are together. And that comes from, the top down. So we try to keep it right around 30. The past few years, we've been a little higher than 30. With COVID, we expanded the roster a little bit, just, for all the protocols. And, if someone, if guys have to quarantine, if you're able to not quarantine the whole team, maybe you can have enough numbers. So that was kind of the thinking in past years. Now that's, mostly gone, it's getting that roster back down to around 30 guys. So the idea is that everyone on that roster can be a vital part of the team. You're going to have some guys who are developing, freshmen, sophomores particularly, who might not be impact players, their first year on the team, but and anybody can be called on at any time, especially at the end of the season, to jump into a role if need be.
Okay. Well, in terms of staff, obviously there's you and other folks. So can you give me just a little background on how many staff are there? What roles does everybody play? What does that look like?
Yeah. So we have the head coach, Greg Fulton. Then we have 3 assistants under him. Micah Klein is the other one, myself. And then we have a goalkeeper coach, Paul Christensen. He's actually the starting goalie for the Greenville Triumph. So he was balancing those two, and he's been great to work with. he brings an extra level of insight, obviously playing at the highest level of soccer in the U.S. He played for Atlanta United and now with the Triumph. And so he brings that experience and those insights. Job responsibilities is an interesting one. I smile because we often overlap in a lot of ways. Our first year together, it was a little bit of everybody kind of jumping and doing everything. So it wasn't like you do this, you do this. This year it's settled more into roles. So I've handled a lot more of the recruiting this year. Each one of us have small parts in it, but I've done a lot more of that. Micah has done a lot of the detail work, helping guys in their classes, just making sure, attendance wise and other issues that might arise, communication with teachers. And then Greg is he kind of is the overarching, has the vision. So whether it's the marketing, whether it's the recruiting, I'm more the early stages of recruiting. He's more in the later stages, getting guys who we really want and being a part of those conversations. Kind of along with that is our overall play style. How do we want to play as a team? What direction do we want to go in training? So I hesitate to kind of put those, put us in those categories because there is overlap, but especially when it comes to planning training, it's a really collaborative effort, but he's the one who really drives steers the ship, I should say, in a lot of those ways.
That makes sense. Well, how would you describe, I guess, the overall, the team style of play, the coaching style of the staff, and just the overall culture of the team?
Sure. I'll try to keep it short. The style of play, Greg spent a lot of time actually over in Spain when he was coming out of college and was I got to keep this short story, but looking out over there. But so he fell in love with Barcelona. He was there in the prime years. Messi, Neymar, Suarez, and yes, Xavi, pulling all the strings. And so we really favor possession style of team. This year we've done a lot of work in the 4-3-3. Last year was a 3-5-2. So not so much tied to any one system, but the system that gets the best out of our players while allowing us to keep the ball, but also to be dangerous. So that's something we've looked to add to our arsenal this year, is being able to possess the ball, keep it, but also to be dangerous and be direct when we have to. So I think we're always going to choose to keep the ball, but this year has been a step forward in learning. Sometimes we got to play the ball over the top, and you can't tiki-taka, through every team. Sometimes you have to attack with more speed and not be the slow build up. So the word I like is flexible, but it's flexible with a possession based attacking style is the goal that we strive for. And it's always a work in progress. We have some games where it looks great and some games where it reminds us what we need to work on. But I would say that's the style of play we're shooting for.
Okay.
I think the next one was on coaches, on how
I mean, you talked about your style of coaching.
A style of coaching.
And, yeah.
It's a lot of I'd say it's a lot of rondos coming from Barca, but a lot of our training centers around quick paced 1- and 2-touch drills, possession drills, small sided games, small sided drills. And when I say drills, it's not a lot of there's a mixture of everything, but it's not a lot of standing in lines and running through patterns, although there are some of those things. But it's really wanting guys to learn to understand the game by doing and to get a feel for the game rather than us prescribing everything. In this situation, do this. In this situation, there is that at times, but really trying to let the game be the best teacher. And so the more exposure you have to that and the more small-sided, quick possession games you play, the better you're able to think the game, process the game, and technical ability is really at a premium. So guys who their technical ability is up there will get the nod over guys who might be more physical or physically gifted because we want to keep it and be able to keep it in tight spaces.
Okay. Well, Coach, we've covered a lot of ground, and I always like to end these the same way, and that's what didn't we talk about? If there's anything else you want to let us know, either about the your recruiting processes, the school itself, the soccer side of things, or college soccer in general, I give you the last word here.
Yeah. I think two things, mainly from some of the questions I was looking at that we didn't have time for, but I think it's good as for any prospective student. One is when you're reaching out to a coach, make sure you've researched the school. Don't send a stock email. You might think, well, just, there's wisdom in just sending out mass numbers. And you can do that quickly, but take the time to research the school, to know. We have so many emails that guys send in, and it's, hey coach, I'm really interested in your school, would love for you to take a look at me, here's my contact info. But the ones that stick out are, hey, coach, and you have the name in there, and we saw that your record's this, and you have this big game coming up, or been following this, and I saw this game. So just those little personal touches. I think that's a life principle, but especially when you're trying to make an impact and stand out from the hundreds of other stock emails that coaches are getting. I'd say the second, maybe related to that, but as you do your homework, make sure you have a full vision, a big picture of the school that you're going to go to. We're just talking to a recruit the other day who he went to a school, quality program, but he went in, he didn't know anything about the school really, aside from the fact that he wanted to be on the soccer team. And so he gets into the classes and he gets in the environment, and once the soccer doesn't start going well, he starts all these other, because you're like, man, soccer's not going well, and I don't like this, I don't like that. So you go for more than just the soccer team, although that might be the biggest motivator. I know it was for me. But you go for the environment, you go for the education, you go for who the coaches are as people, because there are going to be hard times, there are going to be disagreements, there are going to be times you have to trust your coach's decision, or have conversations with them, or have conversations with your teachers. And there's so much more than just playing the game. And I think you really shortchange yourself if you don't do that extra work to see the big picture.
Absolutely. Very well said. Well, Coach, I really appreciate the time and wish you guys nothing but the best down in Kissimmee. And hope you guys can bring back, I think you guys did happen to bring back the ship last year, didn't you?
Yeah. Looking to repeat.
So good luck in that, and we'll keep an eye on you. And thanks again for the time.
Thanks so much, Matt.
Thank you. You don't want to miss the 2023 United Soccer Coaches Convention in Philadelphia from January 11th to the 15th. This convention is the largest gathering of soccer coaches, administrators, and fans in the world. Only at the convention can you attend sessions crafted with your coaching level and desired topics in mind. Presented by world-class educators, our collection of over 200 lecture sessions and field demonstrations will offer every coach something to bring back to their own training sessions. Come learn from Amanda Vandervoort, president of the USL Super League, Anthony Flores, youth technical director of the Philadelphia Union, Becky Burley and Brett Ledbetter of What Drives Winning, Laura Harvey, head coach of OL Reign FC, and Dan Abraham, sports psychologist. More presenters will be announced in the months leading up to the convention. Visit www.unitedsoccercoachesconvention.org to register before the next price increase.